Merhabalar efendim, Billur TV'ye hoş geldiniz. Martin Ucik'le birlikteyiz. İlk çektiğimiz programda onu detaylı olarak kim olduğunu anlatmıştım. Onun için ilk bunu açtıysanız lütfen öbür programlara da bakın diyoruz. Bu adam Alman asıllı bir Amerikalı, dünyayı dolaşıyor ve aşklarına yardım ediyor, insanların ilişkilerine yardım ediyor. Nasıl düzgün ilişki bulabileceğimizi bize öğretiyor ki mutlu olalım diye. Çok da güzel bir görevi var bence bu hayatta. Hatta bir takım koçları falan da eğitiyor ki kendi arkasında yeni eğitmenler bırakmak için müthiş kitapları var. İlişki bulmak o kadar zorlaşmış ki günümüzde, düşünsenize, böyle bir adama başvurmak zorunda kalıyoruz. Böyle bir adam dediğimde küçümseyerek söylemiyorum. Bu kadar eğitimli, bu kadar çok şey öğrenmiş az adam vardır. Ben de dinledikçe hala uzun bir ilişkim olmasına rağmen acaba doğru mu yapıyorum, yanlış mı yapıyorum diye düşünüp duruyorum. Welcome back. I always tell different things about you. So they have to watch all the programs to know about
It's really
you.
good. They get to know my different personalities.
You're here. I said we need this guy because we can't have, healthy relationships anymore. On this part, we want to talk to you about 6 phases of falling in love.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, do we have 6 phases of does everybody go through these phases?
Well, some people abort right before they get to the marriage commitment.
So it's not so easy, huh?
No.
So how does it begin?
Yeah. Well, as you were saying that, I often say what the people in Turkey really have this advantage to learn from the mistakes that people already went through the modern and postmodern phase. And then, as we see in the Hollywood movies, right, all these relationship difficulties and literally thousands of relationship books that have been written in America.
We still can't manage. Can you imagine how difficult it must be?
And that's, of course, what I did in my 2 books, and one of them now available in Turkish, that I distilled the wisdom from hundreds of relationship books and my relationship experiences with dating hundreds of women and being married twice, into one manual, compact manual, yes. Right? And then you can go deeper with this individual wisdom. So
I'm going to tell them about your book.
Excited to share. And one element that struck me, now that we talked about how to identify a right partner, to find that person, and to see that we can last beyond the love struck phase, is to successfully navigate these 6 phases or stages of falling in love and getting to a committed relationship, which still a lot of people want. Not everybody wants that, but a lot of people still want that. And so, and they're all accompanied by certain hormones, right? So the first stage is what is called lust or desire,
yes,
right? So men have the urge, they want to have sex. A woman may be with someone who she feels safe with and protected.
So it's totally visual, right? At first, huh? When we see each other, we just like each other.
It's an inner urge. So we're not even in this is what gets us out to look for someone, because a certain part of the population is not even looking for a partner, or they don't want to be in a relationship, right? But so we first have to have this inner urge of wanting to be in a relationship.
That's the first step.
This is what gets us online or on Tinder, or go to a bar, or tell other people, I want to have a girlfriend or boyfriend, I'm so lonely, or pray for it, whatever they do, right? We need to have this inner impulse, and that's natural, that's human nature. We're not deciding that, right? And some people who repress all these things have deep psychological wounding, or maybe have some health issues, or take antidepressants, for example. They repress even the desire to be in a relationship. So we need to ready ourselves even to develop that desire, right? And that gets us out. And then if we meet someone that we have have a crush on, right, who we're attracted to, infatuation kicks in. And that's usually adrenaline kicks in the body, right? Testosterone is the sex hormone that gets us out looking. Adrenaline is when we go like, wow, I want to be with this person. And then one person then needs to take the risk of rejection, right? Which is traditionally the man. Well, if we're both infatuated and we want the other person, but none of them is making the first move, we don't get together. right? And what I teach women here is say there is no good man out here in Turkey, right, that I feel met with. I first say, well, how many men do you want to have a relationship with?
Yes.
And they usually say one. Yeah, and then I say, well, there must be some good men around here. I already met some of these great men.
7 billion people in the world, you know. I always say that, you know. Yeah. So if there's 7 billion people, then there must be one for me.
Right. And what I learned in California when I met couples and say, wow, how did you meet? And they're amazing couples, amazing power couples, the woman, they're both really happy. I have not met a single couple where the woman didn't make the first step. So we get this total reversal, right? If there is an abundance of women who want to have a good man, of which there is maybe a certain smaller number, then of course we need to change who takes the risk of rejection, and the women needs to approach us.
Women are never rejected, you know. I mean, especially
rejected,
here in Turkey.
And then the woman told me, oh man, the man here would be offended. Every man who hears me saying says, go like, man, that would be really great if I no longer had to take the fear of rejection.
Why would they be offended? I mean, because they have a fear of rejection more than women have.
Yeah. So now we have the infatuation, right? We get together, we're infatuated, we can't sleep, we have the butterflies in my stomach. And we get to romance. That's the third stage, right? And we listen to each other, we try to speak each other's love languages that we talked in the previous segment, right? We only think about this person, we stop dating maybe other people or stop looking other people, and we're just having this great time, right?
Yes.
And we think it will never change, and oxytocin is released and serotonin is released and all these wonderful
nice
feelings, right? And this is usually where the movie ends. Right?
Yeah.
This is where the movie ends and they live happily ever after, right?
Yeah.
If we watch Groundhog Day or Love Actually or these romantic Hollywood or whatever movies where they made, right? This is usually where it ends. And that's what we're all seeking. But, there's a saying, if somebody has the power to make you happy, they also have the power to make you unhappy, right? And so once these love-struck hormones wear off, conflict emerges, right? So that's the fourth phase, is conflict, which is very natural that after a while, because often what we have repressed or not developed in ourselves attracts us to another person. So let's say an introvert is attracted to an extrovert, right? But then the extroversion or the introversion of the other person also starts to get on our nerves because we repressed it in a way in the first place. And so a lot of people then, and I noticed that a lot in Turkey, then they externalize the problem and they go like, oh, this isn't the right person, or there's something wrong with them, or he's a narcissist, or she's a slut. And we label people, right? We put a label on them so that we are right and they are wrong. And we have no responsibility in the conflict. It's all their problem. Right? And so there it is important to shift from blaming and projection to curiosity. Right? And to switch from judgment to empathy and curiosity and say, wow, you always brought me flowers and all of a sudden you stopped bringing me flowers. Instead of saying, you're such a smug or you were deceiving me, I say, I'm really curious why you stopped, right? It's not, I don't blame you. Maybe you ran out of money or you thought I'm no longer interested, right? You ask questions, you're curious about the other person. And that is a very important phase where you then may find out, oh, we really fell in love with the other person, the wrong person. But it's no blaming any longer, right? I said, okay, we both made a mistake.
Yeah,
we learn more about each other.
Friends.
We remain friends. We learn something about each other. But in the ideal case, through this curiosity, we learn more about ourselves and the other person. We say, wow, this is great. This is a relationship.
We know what we don't want.
Where I can learn, I can heal, I can grow, right? We can both expand as human beings. So this conflict phase is a huge opportunity for our own development. If we don't blame the other person and both stay together, right? So that's the fourth phase. And then once we get through that, usually we get to something that's generally called engagement. And I don't mean that in a formal way, but really where we say, let's get really serious, and maybe you start to introduce your partner more to the family, right? You get more involved. Maybe you share some money. You go on vacations together. You buy some things together. You really feel out how, is the sexuality still good, right? What do we need to do to get ready for total commitment? So it's this, all doors are closed. We're really together. We have a safe container, but we haven't fully committed yet. Right? This is like a practice, the practice part.
Yeah, well, that is engagement, actually.
Yeah, and this is what we typically call engagement, right? I'm just saying it doesn't have to be a formal engagement, but often in traditional relationships, that's the formal engagement. And then there's a hormone called vasopressin, which is the bonding hormones, which has been found in certain animals that when they really...
What is it?
It's vasopressin is the English pronunciation, VASSOPROAS, and they injected the male animals, for example, voles, the little mice, with that hormone, and they became totally monogamous. So this idea of monogamy and non-monogamy...
Don't let women hear about this, because
they're
going
to give
to inject their husbands
injections, but there is a monogamy hormone, a bondage hormone,
which doesn't exist in men.
Because if that wouldn't exist in men, of course, then men would just get all kinds of women pregnant and would never care for them and their offspring, and we would have not survived as a human race. In the animal world,
kidding. I mean,
you always see that when women, or female animal give birth to children, there's usually the male there who protects his partner or the female from other males and from the children, the offspring, to survive.
That hormone doesn't exist in me. I know that.
Otherwise, no biological life would basically, or animal life would exist if we fall into the stereotype that all men are just like cheating and doing things. That's really not true. There is an underlying reason if men cheat, and in the next segment we will actually talk about that, why this is happening and how to prevent it. And so then, finally...
Injection, the prevention is injection.
Yeah,
now we know.
But the hormone needs to be released naturally, right? That's just like taking drugs and saying we all should take heroin and think it makes us happy, right? But the happiness needs to come inside without the outside injection. And then the sixth stage is then finally marriage and commitment. And then I might even add a seventh stage that just comes to mind right now is our marriage vow should not just be until death do us apart, and
it's silly now
in good times and bad times in these things.
Because we became liars, we lied so many times.
What's so important to me is, and I keep repeating this, that we make an agreement to continue to learn, to heal our psychological wounds, to grow as human beings, to spiritually awaken, and to make a contribution to the world. Because there is two scientifically proven facts for our long-term happiness that are often overlooked, specifically by people who are highly individualized and say, going it by myself, right? Relationships create problems, and there's two factors. One is healthy relationships, and the second factor is a purpose-driven life, living life on purpose, having a purpose that is higher than the individual. And so sharing a purpose in a relationship, and that's why I called my second book Sex, Understanding the Opposite Sex, having a shared purpose that leads to a new form of love that goes beyond the traditional forms of love, right, where people are just living side by side or in marriages, but the love kind of goes away. If they have a shared purpose, a shared passion, that will inspire them to learn, heal, grow, and awaken, because the more educated they are, the more whole they are, the more psychologically healthy, the more awake, the better they can serve their purpose, and it can eventually go out into the whole world, like Bill and Melinda Gates or other of these power couples who really have this deep impact on the world, where you feel he or she alone could never have accomplished, or Mahatma Gandhi, or there are many couples where you feel they could never have done alone what they did as a couple. And I think you're in a relationship like that, where you and your partner, you do things together that neither he could do alone nor you could do alone.
Exactly.
And these are the couples that inspire me, and these are the couples that should inspire other people. And the recipe book, the manual, the guideline is what I wrote in my books.
Because especially in Turkey, I see a lot of couples that have different purposes, and they one tries to stop the other, of course, after a while, because I mean, when they don't match, then it becomes very unhappy, but they don't realize it.
Right, right. So shared purpose is the future of love and is the future of humanity.
Are we going to have this book also in Turkish one day?
Yeah, the first part is already part is already translated, and now we can start on the second part. Good. So this will come out in 3 books, in 3 parts.
Yes, because this is too much for Turkish people. We don't like to read that. It's a thick book.
It's too much for everyone, but I just had to get it out of my system. So.
Yes, so you talk about these the 6 phases of falling in love in your workshops.
Absolutely, yes. So we have one module where we have just on a weekend 3 hours we talk about that, and then in our weekend workshop where we cover 11 modules that we see here. So I broke down the whole integral relationship model into 14 different elements.
Can you do all 14 together over a weekend, or maybe?
We do 11 on a weekend.
Yes.
And sometimes we do an additional day where we cover the other 3 elements, which are our personality disorder, shared purpose, and then how to co-create a relationship at the level of all the 7 chakras. I'm very much into the chakras.
Yes.
And so instead of loving only your partner, you love what's uniquely co-created between you and your partner.
Love is not enough anyway. It's just, I always say to my friends, they say, for instance, if they're in a totally wrong relationship, purposeless relationship, they say, but I love him. I said, love is only one phase. Then you have to, maybe, whatever the other phases are. I mean, up to me, I just, talk up to me.
Well, you want to develop as a human being in the context of your relationship, and you want to serve a purpose together. These are the only 2 things in addition of meeting your psychological and sexual and material needs. Of course,
there's so
sharing
many phases
resources, and there's many reasons to be together with another human being. But at one point you want to stop just looking at each other, but you also want to turn and move together, provide something to the world, contribute something to the world, and you want to move from just being yourself to becoming a better person. So that's what I call interbecoming. Together with this particular person, I can uniquely develop as an individual in the context of the relationship. That also answers the questions, are we whole in ourselves, or are we parts? We're always simultaneously partial to our relationships and our environment while we are whole in ourselves. And that's what the feminine masculine polarities, which is also one of the elements we practice, what they balance and harmonize is this ability to be simultaneously apart while staying whole. That's what feminine masculine polarities
yin yang.
Balance, yin yang. Yeah, that's why we have the yin.
Yes,
the
I
yin
love that. I have
there,
a cat named Yin Yang.
Here.
But she's black and white, that's why.
Yeah.
So anything else on the 6 phases of falling in love?
I think that we covered it well.
Okay, because I'm going to introduce them to your book. Martin'in bu arada kitabı çıkıyor sevgili seyircilerimiz. 2 haftaya diyeceğim, yani Mart ortalarına doğru Türkçe'ye çevrildi. Bu kalın kitabı da çevriliyormuş Türkçe'ye ama onu 3 kitap olarak çıkaracakmış. Bu kitabın adı İntegral Partnerlik ve Cinsellik, Sağlıklı İlişkiler Rehberi diyor. Almanızı şiddetle tavsiye ediyorum. Çıktığı zaman ben de alacağım, merak ediyorum. Şimdi iyi ilişkim var demek kitapları okumayacaksın demek değil. Belki burada fark etmediğimiz bir şeyler görür. Onları da tamamlarız ilişkimizde. Diyor ki isterseniz kitabı alıp okuyup öyle gelin benim workshoplarıma. İsterseniz workshoplarıma gelip kitabı alın. İkisi de birbirine hizmet ediyor neticede. Bu bölümde aşkın 6 ayağını işledik. Bir bölümümüz daha var. Bunu da seyrettiğiniz için çok teşekkür ederiz.